You just opened your bank app and felt that familiar sting of disappointment, then closed it like it could bite you. But listen carefully. What if the number you're staring at isn't telling you the truth? What if the people you envy are one missed paycheck away from collapse, and you, quietly, are already winning? If you want more stories like this, where we investigate money like a crime scene, hit subscribe right now. Because the next clue will change how you see everyone's wealth forever. The case begins the same way every time: a normal salary, a normal month, and a strange feeling that none of it is enough. You didn't gamble your paycheck. You didn't buy a yacht. You just lived, and yet, your account balance looks like someone siphoned it while you slept. That's when most people blame themselves, until we pull out the magnifying glass and notice the real suspect. The way modern life disguises debt as success. I'm not just an investor. Tonight, I'm your financial detective. I don't chase stock tips. I chase patterns, habits, loopholes, quiet decisions that build wealth in the dark. And the first pattern is brutal. We've been trained to measure wealth by costumes. Cars, houses, vacations, the shiny evidence on social media. But those are props, and props can be rented. Here's the part nobody posts: the payment schedule, the interest rate, the late night anxiety, the fragile math holding the whole performance together. I've met people who look rich, talk rich, live rich, until one medical bill turns their life into a fire sale. Meanwhile, I've met people who drive a dented car and pack lunch like a monk, and could survive 6 months without begging anyone for help. Tell me, who is richer? There's a moment in every investigation when you realize you've been staring at the wrong clue. Income isn't wealth. A high salary can be a loud engine pulling an empty trailer. Some of the highest earners live paycheck to paycheck because they upgraded their life faster than they upgraded their safety. They don't own their lifestyle. Their lifestyle owns them. So we open the file and label it, the wealth illusion. It has 3 fingerprints. Fingerprint 1. Money enters and immediately disappears. Fingerprint 2. Normal. Spending hides dozens of tiny leaks. Fingerprint 3. The person feels broke even while earning more than they ever imagined. The illusion isn't that they have no money. The illusion is that they have no control. Let me introduce you to our first character. Call him Ryan. Ryan makes good money, the kind of money his younger self would celebrate. He wears clean shoes, has a nice watch, posts pictures at restaurants with lighting that makes everything look expensive. But Ryan has a secret: he doesn't check his net worth. He checks his mood, and every month, his mood depends on whether the bills hit before his paycheck. Now meet our second character. Call her Mia. Mia makes less than Ryan. She doesn't look ahead. She doesn't post luxury. But Mia has something Ryan can't buy quickly: a system. The day she gets paid, money leaves her checking account before she even sees it. It's not dramatic, it's automatic, and that one invisible habit makes her wealthier than she feels. This is the first twist of the case. Your wealth is not the number you can see. It's the number you can't touch. The money you can't impulsively spend because it's already been transferred into a future version of you. That's why 2 people can earn the same salary and live in 2 different financial universes, one stressed, one calm, one chasing, one building. And here's where the story turns darker. Society rewards the appearance of wealth more than the construction of wealth. The world applauds the new car, not the emergency fund. The world likes the vacation photo, not the boring transfer into an index fund. So most people become actors in a financial theater, performing richness while their real foundation rots underneath. The question is, are you one of the actors, or are you the person quietly buying the stage? Let's step into the crime scene and take measurements. Because feelings lie but numbers don't. The trick isn't some secret stock or a rare side hustle. The trick is that small decisions, repeated, build a silent machine. Most people think wealth arrives as a big moment, promotion, bonus, lucky break. But in every case I've investigated, real wealth grew like mold in a dark corner, slowly, invisibly, and then suddenly everywhere. Start with something so boring it sounds like a joke. Lunch, 4 days a week, you buy it for about $12. If you pack it, maybe it costs $3. That's $9 saved per day. 4 days a week, $36 per week, and over a year you're looking at roughly $1,800 that most people chew and forget. They hear that and shrug. Because their brain labels it small. That label is the lie. Because the case isn't about saving $1,800 once. It's about what happens when you turn it into an annual habit and let time interrogate it. Invest that $1,800 each year in a simple index fund. The kind of boring thing nobody brags about. Assume average growth, not fantasy. Not perfection, just steady. In 30 years, that sandwich decision can become a pile of money big enough to change your retirement. Your stress level, your choices. The mystery isn't, how did I get rich? The mystery is, how did I ever think this didn't matter? Most people can't emotionally process compounding. Because compounding doesn't feel like a reward. It feels like waiting. That's why the same person who will spend $80 without thinking will hesitate to invest $80 because it feels like losing access to it. Present bias. Your brain is wired to protect now, even if now is noisy and expensive and temporary. Here's the psychological trap. When money sits in checking, it becomes a voice. It whispers reasons. You worked hard. You deserve it. This will make life easier. It's just one purchase, and you don't even realize you're being negotiated with. Your own brain is the smoothest salesperson you'll ever meet. That's why the first real sign of hidden wealth isn't a high salary. It's a system that removes money before your brain can pitch you a story. Picture the mechanism like a hidden door in a mansion. Payday hits. Money moves automatically into savings or investments. The checking account shows a smaller number. And something fascinating happens. You adapt. You don't collapse. You don't starve. You simply build your life around what remains. The same way you adapted when rent went up, or groceries got more expensive. Humans are painfully adaptable, unless they're addicted to convenience. This is where Mia's file gets interesting. She set up a transfer so small it almost felt embarrassing. Not a heroic amount, not a financial guru amount, just enough to create a routine. The first month, she noticed it. The second month, she adjusted. By month 3, it became invisible, and invisibility is power. Because invisible systems don't require motivation. They run even when you're tired, emotional, or tempted. While Ryan kept doing what the world rewards, upgrading what people can see. The nicer apartment, the newer car, the "I'm doing well" dinners. He wasn't irresponsible in a dramatic way. He was irresponsible in a modern way, by financing comfort and calling it normal. He thought he was building a life. He was building a cage with monthly payments as the bars. Let's look at the second crime scene. Debt. Not the existence of debt. Many people carry it, but the direction of debt. If your debt is growing, you're bleeding. If your debt is shrinking, you've applied a tourniquet. And the reason debt is so deadly isn't just the interest. It's the opportunity cost. Every dollar you send to interest is a dollar that can't grow into your future. Run the numbers like a detective. A few thousand on a credit card at a high interest rate looks manageable. Until you see the timeline. The minimum payment turns months into years. And the interest turns one purchase into 2 purchases, one for you, one for the bank. Now flip the story. Imagine that same monthly payment going into investments instead. Over the same time window. You don't just avoid loss, you build an asset. One choice changes the entire trajectory. Like turning left instead of right at the start of a long highway. Every case has a moment where the detective stops chasing the flashy suspect and starts watching the quiet one. That's what quiet rich means. Not secretive, not stingy, just focused on the scoreboard that actually matters. If you want to know whether you're richer than you think, you don't look at your income. You don't look at your car. You don't look at your friends' vacations. You look at the invisible scoreboard, systems, net worth, and optionality. Let's build the quiet rich checklist the way I'd build a profile. Sign 1. Even one automatic transfer, any amount, means you're operating with strategy instead of mood. Most people save only when they feel safe, which means they save the least when they need it most. Automation flips that. It makes saving non-negotiable. Like rent, except it pays your future self instead of your landlord. Sign 2. You have anything invested in a retirement account. Even if it's small, 2,000, 5,000, it doesn't matter. The number isn't the trophy. The habit is the weapon. Most people delay investing because they think investing is what rich people do. They don't realize investing is how people become rich. Waiting until you feel wealthy to start investing is like waiting until you feel healthy to start exercising. This is where the timeline becomes the most ruthless detective in the room. A 25-year-old who invests a little can beat a 35-year-old who invests a lot. Simply because time is a multiplier you cannot buy back. People underestimate this because 10 years doesn't feel like a financial asset. It feels like life. But in the case file, time is evidence, and the evidence is brutal. 3. You're not adding new consumer debt. Even if you're still paying off old debt, you've stopped the bleeding. That's a major turning point. Because compounding works both ways. Interest can build your wealth or destroy it. When you stop borrowing at high interest, you're not just avoiding pain, you're reclaiming your future cash flow. The very fuel wealth needs. Line 4. You're thinking about money at all. That sounds ridiculous until you realize how many people live in financial fog. They avoid looking. They avoid learning. They avoid the feeling. Awareness is a form of wealth because it's a control lever. You can't fix a leak you refuse to measure. If you're watching this kind of story, you've already stepped into the investigation instead of staying a victim of the mystery. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Knowledge without systems is just entertainment. People binge personal finance like it's a motivational movie. Feel inspired, then wake up and do the same thing. That's why every serious wealth builder eventually becomes a systems builder. Not because they're perfect, but because they're tired of relying on willpower. And willpower always loses to a bad day. You've ever said no to a purchase because you were saving for something specific? That's delayed gratification, and it's one of the strongest predictors of financial success. The first time you say no, it feels like deprivation. The 10th time, it feels like identity. The 20th time, it feels like power. Because you're not being controlled by the moment, you're controlling the story. Now we hit the most dangerous illusion in the file: comparison. Social media turns everyone into a billboard. You see a vacation, not the credit card statement. You see a new car, not the 7-year loan. You see a new house, not the anxiety of the monthly payment. People don't post their emergency fund. They don't post their retirement account. They post the performance. So if you compare your real life to someone else's highlight reel, you will always feel behind. Here's what the richest people I've met have in common. They're weirdly unimpressed by appearances. They don't hate nice things. They just don't confuse them with wealth. They ask a different question. How long could I survive if everything stopped? That question is the lie detector. The person who can survive without begging is wealthier than the person who looks rich but collapses under one unexpected expense. In every investigation, there's one suspect that shows up again and again. Always wearing a clean suit. Always smiling. Always saying, "This is normal." That suspect is financing depreciating assets, especially cars. It doesn't feel like a crime because everyone does it. But if everyone jumped off a bridge, the river would still be full of bodies. And the bank would still collect interest on the way down. Here's the scene. A dealership showroom with bright lights and soft music designed to make you forget math exists. A salesperson slides a paper across the desk and points to the only number they want you to see: the monthly payment. Not the total, not the interest, not the years of your life chained to the contract. Just the monthly. It's psychological sleight of hand, turning a massive decision into a small-looking number. When you hear $700 a month, your brain compares it to rent, not to opportunity cost. But that payment isn't just money leaving your account. It's money that could have been building your freedom. If you skip the new car and invest that payment instead, the gap doesn't look dramatic in month 1. It looks dramatic in year 5. It looks criminal in year 10. And by year 20, it looks like 2 different lifetimes. I watched a friend, call him Daniel, sign a 6-year car loan like he was signing a harmless autograph. He drove out smiling, and for 3 months he felt rich. Then the feeling faded, the payment remained, and the car became just a car. Hedonic adaptation is the quiet assassin. The joy expires quickly, but the cost keeps billing you like a subscription to regret. Speaking of subscriptions, this is where the case file gets creepy. Because modern spending isn't one big robbery. It's 1,000 tiny pickpockets. A streaming service you forgot. A gym membership you mean to use. An app that charges you every month for a feature you never touch. None of them feel painful, so you never investigate, but together, they can drain more wealth than a single big purchase. Because they never stop. This is why budget awareness is a form of power, not punishment. Most people fear tracking because they think it means restriction. But tracking is just surveillance. And surveillance is how you catch leaks. You don't need a complicated spreadsheet. You need a flashlight. Income, fixed expenses, savings rate, what's left. That's enough to expose the places your money is quietly bleeding. Here's the twist that turns stressed earners into calm builders. Net worth. When you track net worth, your brain stops chasing status and starts chasing progress. You stop asking, "Do I look rich?" and start asking, "Am I getting stronger?" Every month becomes a checkpoint. Even small improvements become visible. And visible progress changes behavior faster than motivational quotes ever will. This once a month like clockwork. 10 minutes. Add up assets. Subtract debts. Write down the number. At first it was ugly. She didn't like it, but she didn't flinch, because discomfort is data. After 3 months, the number moved up slightly. After 6 months, she could predict it. After a year, she realized something dangerous. She no longer needed to impress anyone. Because she was building proof. A lion avoided net worth like it was a horror movie. He preferred the comfort of, I'm doing fine, as long as he didn't calculate it. But one night, after an unexpected expense hit, he finally wrote it down. The number wasn't just low, it was a verdict. And that's when he understood the difference between being busy and being wealthy. Busy people spend to feel better, wealthy people build to feel safe. A case closes in on a deeper clue most people ignore: optionality. The richest person in the room isn't always the one with the biggest salary, it's the one with the most exits. A skill that can generate income outside your job is a hidden asset. It's a parachute you might never use, but the knowledge that it exists changes how you walk through life. It makes you negotiate harder, tolerate less, and choose better, because you're not trapped. Ellipsis is the part of the investigation that makes people angry, because it proves the game isn't rigged against you as much as it's rigged inside you. Small actions feel pointless. Your brain treats saving $50 like a joke, because it can't taste the future. But the future is where compounding lives. And compounding doesn't care how you feel, it only cares what you repeat. I call this the evidence problem. The first month you invest, nothing exciting happens. The second month, still nothing. You're doing the right thing and it feels like punishment, because you don't get immediate applause. Meanwhile, spending gives instant dopamine and a photo you can post. That's why most people fail, not because they're incapable, but because their reward system is wired to betray them. Why the 1% rule is so lethal, in a good way. Increase your savings rate by just 1% per year. 1% is almost invisible. It's one subscription, one impulse purchase, one lazy weekend delivery, and yet, over a decade, it turns your financial identity from someone who hopes into someone who accumulates. The math looks boring at first. Then it starts looking like magic. And then it starts looking like destiny. Mia tried it like an experiment, not a religion. She didn't promise herself perfection. She promised herself momentum. Year 1, she saved a little. Year 2, she nudged it up. Year 3, she nudged again. Each increase was small enough that her lifestyle barely noticed. But her net worth noticed. That's the trick. You want the change to be too small for your ego to panic, but too consistent for your future to ignore. A lion, on the other hand, lived by a different law. Whenever income rose, spending rose to meet it. Lifestyle inflation is the silent thief that steals raises before you even feel them. You get a little more money, your brain demands a little more comfort, and 3 months later you're back where you started, except now your normal is more expensive. And your cage has thicker bars. The most dangerous part is that lifestyle inflation feels like progress. It feels like, I'm finally doing better. And sometimes it is, if you upgrade intentionally while also upgrading your assets. But most people upgrade everything visible first. They buy the nicer apartment, the newer car, the expensive habits, and only then, if anything is left, they think about investing. That, if anything is left, is where wealth goes to die. Now we reach the moment in the file where compounding starts doing the heavy lifting. And it feels like the case turns supernatural. The first 10,000 invested is the hardest because you're pushing uphill with your own muscle. Every contribution is you lifting the weight. But once the base grows, returns begin contributing too. You're no longer alone in the effort. Your money starts pulling with you. This is why delay is the real wealth killer, not coffee. Not small luxuries, not the things people love to shame online. Delay. Every month you wait is a month you can never get back. People say, I'll start when I make more. But making more doesn't automatically make you save more. In many cases, it just makes you spend more with better packaging. The habit has to exist before the income grows. Or the growth will simply feed the illusion. I use a metaphor because the brain understands stories better than spreadsheets. Investing is planting a tree. Whether the tree takes 20 years to mature doesn't change. If you plant today, you get shade in 20 years. If you wait 10 years to plant, you'll still wait 20 years, except now you'll be waiting 30. The tree doesn't care about your excuses. It only cares about the calendar. And now we hit the final trap that keeps even smart people stuck. They confuse motivation with identity. They try to feel inspired into good behavior. But inspiration fades, identity doesn't. When you become the kind of person who automatically builds assets, you don't need hype, you don't need perfect months. You just need a system that runs while you live your life. The question is, are you ready to stop performing wealth and start measuring it like an investigator? Investigation ends with a confrontation. Not with the bank, not with the market, not with the system. With you. Because the enemy was never a lack of knowledge, it was the lack of a mechanism that forces knowledge into action. So here's the simplest action plan I've ever used. The one that turns ordinary earners into quiet builders without requiring perfection or misery. Step 1. Automate one transfer on payday. Not after bills, not when you feel like it, not when the month goes well, on payday. It can be $50. It can be $20. The amount is not the point. The point is you create a rule that your future gets paid first. In the case file, this is the moment the victim becomes the investigator. Step 2. Increase it slowly. Like training a muscle, every 3 months, raise it by a small amount, $25. Or 1%, whatever is easier. This is how you bypass panic. Big changes trigger rebellion. Small changes trigger adaptation. The human brain is a stubborn animal. But it is also a teachable animal if you stop trying to force it and start training it. Pick one leak and close it. Not 10. 1. Go through your last 3 months of statements like you're searching for fingerprints. Find something recurring that brings low value, subscriptions, fees, forgotten memberships, convenience spending that doesn't even make you happy. Cancel it, then redirect that exact amount into your automated transfer so the money doesn't free up and disappear into another leak. Step 4. Track net worth monthly. This is the ritual that changes everything. Not your income, not your account balance, net worth, assets minus debts. Write it down in one place. Look at the trend, not the mood. If it's going up, you're building. If it's flat, you're stuck. If it's going down, you're bleeding. This number doesn't care about your excuses. And that's why it's powerful. 5. Stop financing depreciating stuff like it's normal. The rule is simple. If you can't buy it in cash or pay it off quickly, you can't afford it, especially if it loses value. This one step alone prevents years of invisible wealth destruction. It's not about being cheap. It's about refusing to rent your own life from a lender. Now let me show you the 2 timelines, evidence, the part that makes the whole story unavoidable. 2 people graduate the same year. Similar backgrounds, similar dreams. Person 1 earns less and sets up automation. Invests consistently, keeps debt under control, tracks net worth. Person 2 earns more and upgrades lifestyle first. Invests later, carries payments, and measures wealth by appearance. 10 years pass. Person 1 is quietly worth far more. Person 2 is louder, but fragile. Isn't that person 1 did something heroic. The shock is that person 2 didn't do something catastrophic either. They just made normal choices. And that's the warning. Normal choices in a debt-heavy, status-driven culture can quietly sabotage you for decades. You don't need a dramatic mistake. You just need consistent leakage and delayed investing. If you're feeling resistance right now, good. Resistance is the sound of an old identity fighting to survive. Your brain wants to keep buying the illusion because the illusion is socially rewarded. People clap for consumption. They do not clap for discipline. Nobody throws you a party for an emergency fund. Nobody likes your photo because you maxed your Roth IRA. That's why wealth is quiet, because the loud path is designed to distract you. And here's the point that turns this from advice into prophecy. Once you build even a small base, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, the compounding becomes a second engine. You're still steering, but now you have momentum. The progress becomes visible, the fear drops. You stop making decisions from desperation and start making them from choice. That is what being already rich actually means. Not a big number today, but a path that becomes unstoppable if you keep walking. The final chapter of the case isn't about money at all. It's about identity, because money is just a mirror that reflects how you handle fear. Most people don't overspend because they're stupid. They overspend because they're anxious, tired, lonely, or trying to prove they matter. Spending becomes a small emotional medication. And if you don't treat the emotion, you'll never fix the behavior. You'll just keep switching brands. This is why rich people look boring isn't an insult. It's a clue. Real wealth doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a costume. Real wealth is the ability to sleep. It's the ability to say no. It's the ability to walk away. Those are silent powers, and silent power always looks like nothing is happening until the day everyone else panics and you don't. Remember Ryan's timeline? The scariest moment wasn't the day his paycheck arrived. It was the day his company announced restructuring. Suddenly the office air changed. Conversations got quieter. People started counting rumors like coins. Ryan felt his throat tighten. Not because he was weak, but because his life had no buffer. One job controlled everything. One email could change his whole future. That is not what wealth feels like. Mia heard the same news and felt something different, not confidence exactly, but space. She went home, opened her net worth tracker, and did the math. She could survive months. She could reduce spending without collapsing. She could even take temporary work if she needed to. That space changed her posture. It changed her voice. It changed how she negotiated. That's optionality, and optionality is wealth in its purest form. Now let's close the biggest psychological trap in the file: comparison. You are comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's trailer. You know your stress, your doubts, your bills, your worst days. You do not know their debt, their fights, their panic, their empty accounts. You see the highlight, you don't see the invoice. And because the game is rigged, you'll always feel behind if you keep playing it. The cure is brutally simple. You only compare yourself to one person, who you were 12 months ago. Is your net worth higher? Is your debt lower? Is your savings rate stronger? Do you have more skills, more options, more control? If yes, you are winning. Even if your life looks quieter, quiet winning is still winning. In fact, it's usually the only kind that lasts. Here's another truth that makes people uncomfortable. Wealth building is not an absolute numbers game. It's a rate of change game. The person saving 20% of a modest income can outpace the person saving 5% of a high income. Because the gap between what you earn and what you spend is the engine. And the engine doesn't care about your job title, it cares about your habits. So if you're sitting there thinking, this sounds great, but I have real expenses. You're right, real life is heavy. That doesn't cancel the principles. It only changes the scale. If you can't save 15%, save 5%. If you can't save 5%, save 2%. If you can't save 2%, save $20. The first amount isn't a financial strategy, it's a psychological proof. Proof that you can build a system. Proof that you can keep a promise to your future self. Because once you prove it, the path opens. You save a small amount for 6 months. Then a small raise arrives. Or you cut one leak. And you increase the transfer. The habit grows. Your skill grows. Your awareness grows. And suddenly you're doing things you once believed were impossible. Not because you became a different person overnight, but because you became consistent long enough to become a new version of yourself. So here's the final challenge, the closing move of the investigation. Don't turn this into entertainment. Take one action today. 1. Set an automatic transfer on payday. Cancel one useless subscription and redirect it. Calculate your net worth once and write it down. Start the file. Start the system. Because 5 years from now, you will either look back at this moment as the turning point, or you'll watch another video. Feel inspired again, and stay in the same loop. You're already richer than you think, not because of what's in your checking account, but because you still have time, you still have choice, and you still have the power to build something real.